Welcome to this episode of Rewind a Closer Look, the show where we dig through the bargain bin of cinematic history and pull out the movies that time tried really hard to forget. Today we're tackling Future War from 1997, a film that asks the bold question, what if the Terminator had no budget, some rubber dinosaurs, and Robert Z. Darr? This is a movie that somehow mixes cyborgs, time travel, dinosaurs, nuns, gang wars, cocaine darts, and heavy-handed religious allegories, and still manages to be confusing in ways you never thought possible. It's one of those films where you spend the whole runtime asking, wait, what? But you never stop watching because it's just that gloriously bad. So strap in because we're about to stumble through squeaky space gates, storm drains full of ABS plumbing, and more runaway scenes than a halfway house for troubled teens. This is Future War. The first 4 minutes of Future War, it's literally just copy-paste straight out of the third act, so we'll skip that part for now. Our story begins with a woman monologuing.
Oh, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
4 days ago, a fire fell from the sky, and it brought a man who would change my life forever. But also came a pack of dinosaur-like creatures in various ages, shapes, sizes, and it...
What the fuck? We open on a miniature of a spaceship floating in space, and then, because nothing screams cutting-edge sci-fi like the most generic stock squeaky gate sound effect, on a spaceship, yep, that's the vibe we're dealing with. Just as the audience is trying to process what's happening, a recurring theme in this movie, we're hit with a good old-fashioned text scroll plot dump.
From the future traveled a master race of cyborgs. They made abductions from Earth's past. The dinosaurs were trained as trackers. The humans were bred as slaves. Now a runaway slave escapes to a place his people call heaven. We know it as Earth.
As the text finishes fading out, we cut to a man stumbling out of the ocean. We're supposed to just assume this is our runaway slave because we never actually see him crash land. To make sure we know he's being hunted, the film switches to some bargain bin Predator Terminator thermal vision shots. And how dangerous is this unseen hunter? Well, we find out when it kills a homeless man on the beach. It happens off-screen, so all we actually get is a scream. Terrifying. We then get a glorious rubber dinosaur feet scene. It would be great if the director Anthony Dublin was wearing those. Not only was he the director, he created and performed the dinosaur creature effects. He wasn't just supervising, he also physically operated some of the rubber dinosaur puppets on set, bringing those low-budget creatures to life himself. Some of his other work included The Reanimator, Willy's Wonderland, and Plughead Rewired, Circuitry Man 2. The runaway makes it off the beach and into the city. Yes, that is his name. It's only ever used in the credits, and no one ever bothers to ask his name. He's the man with no name. The film keeps trying to throw in religious elements. Scripture quotes talk of heaven being earth. By making the hero literally fall from the heavens and wander nameless, the movie clearly wants to suggest he's more than just a runaway. It's that chosen one or savior archetype, but wrapped in B-movie cheese. Now in the city, the runaway somehow ends up stumbling onto yet another homeless guy that is laying by a dumpster. Our runaway is so startled by this that he starts yelling, which of course attracts the cyborg's tracker dinosaur. The dinosaur is only the size of a large dog at best, and the homeless guy just kind of lies down and lets it eat him. Another homeless killed by the dinosaur. Forget social outreach programs, just let the dinosaurs handle it. The runaway, played by Daniel Bernhardt, Bloodsport 2 and The Matrix Reloaded, kills the dinosaur rather easily. The dinosaur then explodes when it dies, as one does. The runaway ends up in a boxed parking lot. You don't have to worry about lighting when it's outside. We all know what's going to happen here. Stacked empty boxes are an B-action movie fight scene staple. Finally, the cyborg hunting our hero shows up, and it's not exactly the sleek killing machine you'd expect. Instead, we get a middle-aged, slightly overweight dude rocking a glorious mullet and an even better mustache. Honestly, he looks less like a futuristic assassin and more like a guy named Randy who fixes carburetors out of his garage, played by a guy named Kazuya, whose only real claim to fame was that he was married to Apollonia Cotero from Prince's movie Purple Rain. The cyborg chases the runaway into a dead-end corridor. You could say he is boxed in.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Our hero has nowhere to go, so he hides in the boxes, where he ambushes the cyborg and throws a box at him. It's a real boxing match now.
Stop it. Get some help.
Somehow the fight teleports inside the box warehouse. I was right about the light. They only have one, and it is shining right in the camera. Someone on set must have noticed that too. Solution? Just put a box over the light. Didn't reshoot the previous bit though. Film is expensive. The final kick sends the cyborg crashing into the boxes. The runaway could have at least kicked him into something, like the pipe in Commando and Dark Angel or the Combine in Universal Soldier. But nope, maybe the boxes interfere with their programming somehow, like a cardboard kryptonite. Runaway is now padding the runtime by walking around the warehouse lost. He stumbles across another, much larger dinosaur. He kills it effortlessly with a conveniently placed knife he finds, and again it blows up once dead. True to his name, Runaway does exactly that. He bolts out of the factory, only to immediately get smoked by a car. Enter Anne, the woman from the opening scene, played by Travis Brooks Stewart. You might recognize her from Bikini Hotel and, Future War. Wait, that's this movie. Yeah, her career highlight reel is basically just this fever dream. Dressed as a nun, she loads him into her car and takes him over to her buddy Fred's place, played by Andre Scruggs. You will remember him from Warrior of Justice and, Future War? Yeah, I'm starting to notice a theme here. Half this cast looks like they basically only had Future War on their resume. Fred and Anne sit down for a heart-to-heart about her decision to become a nun and the guilt that drove her there.
You were hiding from a pimp. You just did a month in the joint. You were suicidal and addicted.
Character depth in this movie? Shockingly, yes. Oddly enough, it even lines up with the runaway being the wandering figure who arrives with no past to test the faithful, and forces them to confront their beliefs. Anne ends up as the one being tested. Somehow this bargain bin dinosaur flick stumbles its way into theology. In what looks like a classic day-for-night shot at first, quickly reveals itself to be just a camera mistake. We learn that the police are investigating the dead homeless guy and the outline of the exploded dinosaur. Sadly, no chalk outline. When the runaway finally wakes up, Anne tries to get answers about who he is and where he's from. He sits in silence for a while, then suddenly jumps up and chokeslams her against the wall. Most people would call that assault, but with Anne's glass-half-full optimism, she interprets it not as violence, but as his very unique way of saying, "Hey, I can't talk."
Oh. There's something wrong with your throat. Yeah, you can understand us, but you can't talk, right? Is that it?
Then suddenly, damn squeaky gate noise is back again.
Yes.
Runaway slowly starts regaining his voice and makes a clumsy attempt at charades to answer Anne's questions. He keeps insisting he's from space, but she just can't put the pieces together. I mean, nothing says I lost my voice like attempted strangulation, but apparently a globe and a spaceship are too abstract for Anne to process. Meanwhile, the dinosaur has tracked them down to Fred's house and comes crashing through the window like it's auditioning for a Kool-Aid Man reboot. Fred fires a couple of shots, but Anne and her new friend do what he does best, run away. At this point, that should just be his official fighting style. The runaway can finally speak, and Anne jumps at the chance to interrogate him. After all the choking and awkward charades, he now blurts out the truth. He's from space. But instead of just letting him talk, the film hands the explanation over to Anne in a full narration monologue, as if we wouldn't understand his accent, or maybe the script just didn't trust him to deliver it. So while he explains the whole Cyborgs and Dinosaurs backstory to her, we get Anne reading it back to us like she's narrating the world's weirdest bedtime story.
It was hard for me to understand him. For all the problems I had, maybe I just didn't want to be a part of his. He explained to me how quickly he could learn, how his vocal cords needed to adjust to speak our tongue, and how he had heard our words before. His eyes were so honest, but still there was a part of him that I didn't trust.
They hop onto a freight train to keep on doing what he does best, running away. And while the boxcars rattle along, we get even more lore dumps from our space fugitive. But instead of staying in the moment, the movie decides to cut away to Anne's flashback, showing her in church, doubting her faith.
Well, you had a record. So did Mary Magdalene.
I was a whore doing tricks in back alleys. I sold drugs. Sister Anne.
Nothing says on the run from killer cyborgs and exploding dinosaurs quite like a quiet trip down religious trauma lane. When Anne finally finishes her flashback, she tries to ditch the runaway like a kid yelling at his puppy in one of those 90s family movies.
Go! Get out of here! Don't you understand? Get! I don't want you anymore!
The only problem? The runaway doesn't actually run away, for once in the movie. And just like that, Anne flip-flops again and decides she wants him around after all. The runaway and Anne have yet another deep conversation about faith and the whole Earth is heaven angle. He's now quoting scripture like a bargain bin televangelist. At this point, they're not even trying to be subtle. The religious themes are shoved so far down your throat it's less storytelling and more Sunday sermon. And here's the thing, it goes completely nowhere. This is a movie about time-traveling cyborgs and their pet tracker dinosaurs. Nobody pressed play hoping for a grand religious epiphany. We just wanted dinosaurs exploding for no reason and maybe a couple of mulleted cyborg fights, not a theology lecture. Anyway, out of nowhere, the cops pick up Anne and the runaway while they're walking down the side of the road. How did the police even know who and where they were? And why would they even be looking for them? At this point, the police think it's a bear attacking people in the city. So what do Anne and her mystery space slave have to do with it? And then it gets even more confusing. The cops bring them along to an active crime scene where another supposed bear attack is happening. Was this a coincidence? Did the cops somehow think Anne and the runaway were involved? Or were the writers just so desperate to shove all the characters into one location that they said, screw it, throw them in the backseat and let's roll? The cops send in their tactical team that consists of only one guy and, oh no, more boxes. Mel Novak even shows up as the SWAT leader for a brief cameo. And then, as police policy clearly states, bring your civilian suspects directly into the middle of a monster attack. So naturally, the cops escort Anne and the runaway right into the warehouse. Everyone wanders around until, shock of shocks, they stumble on the dinosaur. The police can't shoot it because of crossfire, which is just B-movie code for we don't have the budget to choreograph this scene properly. So Anne takes matters into her own hands, throws her sweater over the dinosaur's head, and the runaway once again stabs it in the neck with ease. And here's where we finally get some explanation. The dinosaurs explode because they're wearing explosive collars. Not because of biology, not because of alien DNA. Nope, just high-tech suicide chokers. Which makes me wonder, why didn't they establish that detail about 6 dinosaurs ago instead of just making them blow up like piñatas full of C4? The runaway now decides it's the best time to come clean to the cops that the dinosaurs are looking for him, and his reward for his honesty is, you guessed it,
right to jail, right away.
The squeaky gate makes another appearance. The runaway gets tossed into a jail cell, and weirdly enough, this actually fits right in with the movie's heavy-handed religious themes. You can almost see what they were going for. The wandering stranger, misunderstood, locked up and persecuted like some kind of sci-fi prophet. But instead of deep theological symbolism, what we actually get is a flashback montage of the runaway's greatest hits. Literally, all the dinosaur kills we've already seen in the movie. Because hey, film is expensive, and if you're paying for a rubber T-Rex puppet, you better squeeze every last cent of screen time out of it. Just like the movie's opening scene, it's déjà vu all over again. With the runaway now locked up, Anne turns to her old friend Fred for help. She asks him to set up a meeting with the local 12th Street gang because naturally, when time-traveling cyborgs and explosive rubber dinosaur are terrorizing Los Angeles, you don't call the army. You call some guys who hang out on the corner. Anne's plan? Recruit the gang to help her and the runaway fight the
monsters in the hood.
And here's where the religious subtext sneaks back in. It's basically a fallen nun figure gathering her disciples to follow a wandering prophet. A would-be sister of faith, literally assembling followers to join her in a holy war against
monsters in the hood.
Forget the Book of Revelation. This is the Book of Ridiculous. Back at the police station, the feds suddenly show up and take over the case.
Over this case as of right now.
Because of course they do. It's the 90s. That's their whole job. They drag the runaway into an office and immediately start interrogating him about the cyborgs and their dinosaur pets. Then, in what must be the least sterile medical procedure ever put on film, they just whip out some tools and cut a giant tracking transmitter right out of his back, right there on the desk. There's no antiseptic, very hygienic, but it doesn't matter because the damage is done. The transmitter already did its job and the cyborg is stomping his way straight to the police station. The cyborg finally arrives at the police station, and here comes what might be the most "this could have been awesome but we totally flubbed it" moment in the entire movie. This is where Robert Z'Dar, yes, the glorious Chin himself, finally shows up. And how do they reveal him? Does he crash through a wall, step out of the shadows with some epic lighting, maybe even a dramatic close-up of that mustache? Nope. He just kind of walks around a corner, that's it. You blink and go, oh hey, it's Robert Z'Dar, and that's a crime because he wasn't just anybody. This is the guy who gave us the unhinged cop-turned-serial killer in Maniac Cop, a performance that made him infamous in the cult movie world. He chewed through roles in movies like Samurai Cop,
I will bring you his head and I will place it on your piano.
and Tango and Cash, becoming a true B-movie legend with a face and jawline you could spot from space. The man was built for larger-than-life entrances, and instead Future War just shrugs and says, meh, here he is. In what is clearly an attempted Terminator police station massacre scene, keyword, attempted, the cyborg storms the building and sprays bullets trying to get to the runaway. It's chaotic, loud, and should have been awesome. But much like the rest of this movie, it's more confused than cool. In all the confusion, the runaway escapes, kinda like the movie's plot.
Boom. Roasted.
But before he can actually escape, Robert Z'Dar catches him. And honestly, getting dragged off by a cyborg with that jawline is probably scarier than the dinosaurs. Just when it looks like curtains, the police chief confronts the cyborg, because apparently that's in the job description, giving our runaway just enough time to slip free. Cue the next big threat. Another dinosaur smashes its way in. But don't worry, it lasts all of 10 seconds. The runaway stabs it in the neck, and as the dinosaur thrashes in its death throes, he casually pivots and stabs Robert Z'Dar as well. The timing is so perfect that he collapses right as the dinosaur topples onto him, and we all know where this is going. Cut to Anne and Fred sitting down with the 12th Street gang, still trying to convince them to help. I mean, seriously, telling them you need backup against
monsters in the hood
wasn't enough to sell it. That's actually the most believable thing in this entire movie. Anne and the runaway go on a quick scouting mission to figure out where the dinosaurs are nesting. They find it almost immediately, and then of course they... Once they're back, the group huddles up to make a plan. Anne insists they'll need some serious firepower to take the creatures down, which... Hold on. Did we all forget that the runaway has already killed several of these dinosaurs using nothing but kitchen knives, pipes ripped from the wall, and basically whatever sharp object was lying around? But now suddenly we need firearms? Anne decides it's time to dip back into her shady Rolodex of old contacts. First, she meets up with some guy from her criminal past who hands her a package of blow and a fat wad of cash. Because of course, that's how everyone gets paid in this movie. No Venmo, just bricks of cocaine and loose bills. Then she swings by another sketchy acquaintance to convert that cash into weapons, because apparently Walmart's sporting goods section wasn't cutting it. She eventually reunites with Fred, the runaway, and the gang for the obligatory load-up montage. You know, guns cocking, bandanas tied, everyone looking way tougher than they actually are. But here's the kicker, it sure looks like they have dart guns and they're packing darts with the cocaine. Nobody mentions it, nobody explains it, it's just there, which honestly is peak future war. Back at the storm drain, we are treated to some accidental lens vignetting, because of course. Anne plants an explosive at the entrance and the whole crew charges inside. We've now officially caught back up with the opening scene, and we return to the greatest set of all time. This is supposed to be a storm drain, except it's lit up like the Vegas Strip, and instead of dark concrete sewer tunnels, it's full of bright studio lights and residential ABS plumbing pipes. Then suddenly, bang, darkness. It's like someone on set finally remembered, wait a second, storm drains aren't supposed to look like a Home Depot plumbing aisle. So here we are, wood-cladded walls and a giant spotlight inside a storm sewer. Does it make sense? Absolutely not. But I'll admit, visually it does look kinda cool. The beams of light cutting through the smoke almost give it a music video vibe. And honestly, I'll give them credit. At least they're trying here. The smoke filling the air could almost be atmospheric, or maybe it's just leftovers from when the writers were workshopping the script.
I was gonna clean my room.
So yeah, it's not really a storm sewer anymore. It's more like a dark basement, but hey, compared to the rest of this movie's sets, I'll take it. They set up what looks like the weakest chicken wire trap ever constructed, and they start their search for the dinosaur, and man, they are thorough. They're checking corners, shadows, even up on the ceiling, because hey, apparently gravity's just a suggestion in this universe. While he's busy scanning every impossible hiding spot like he's in a Scooby-Doo cartoon, he completely misses the massive hole in the floor right in front of him. He nearly falls in. It's like the movie itself is trolling him. You're looking for dinosaurs on the ceiling? Buddy, maybe start with the giant pit at your feet. Eventually, they manage to track down the dinosaurs, and you guessed it, they run away again. Seriously, if the plan is to kill these things, maybe stop sprinting in the opposite direction every 5 minutes. They regroup and prepare for the final battle. Anne and the runaway bait the dinosaurs back toward their trap, but along the way, poor Fred slips while climbing a ladder and gets eaten. R.I.P. Fred.
In the arms of the angel.
Finally, the dinosaur charges under their mighty chicken wire trap, which somehow works and pins it down. But wait, it's also electrified. When did they set that up? This is the movie's favorite trick, springing random details on us like, yeah, it was always like this, just go with it. Robert Z'Dar is back. Surprise. Guess he wasn't blown up after all. And behind his big re-entrance, you can literally see the only real movie light in the whole movie. I swear, this movie refuses to give Robert Z'Dar the epic entrance he deserves. The cyborg and the runaway square off in a fistfight, while Anne and about 5 gang members just stand there holding weapons. And not just any weapons, cocaine dart guns. That's right, Chekhov's cocaine never fires.
And I can have a gun, and I must have a gun. That's the rule of Chekhov's gun. Have a gun. And now it's been seen, I will have to shoot someone before the end of the play.
They don't shoot, they don't stab, they don't even distract. In fact, Anne actively stops one guy from helping. So what's our hero supposed to do? There are no boxes down here to throw around, so he boxes Robert Z'Dar's ears instead.
There he is, beating that dead horse! Get him!
And here's the real kicker. The cocaine darts are never, ever used. They're not even mentioned. Why set that up if you're not going to pay it off? That's not just a missed opportunity. That's an entire movie waiting to happen. Forget Cocaine Bear, forget the Polonia Brothers' Cocaine Shark. This could have been Cocaine Dinosaur. The gang, Anne, and the runaway run away. Yes, again.
Run away!
They leave the storm drain right before the big explosion goes off. But here's the question. Why even bother going in there in the first place if the whole plan was just to blow it up anyway? You don't need a nun, a street gang, and a time-traveling space slave to do that. You just need a timer and some TNT. It's like the movie invented an extra 20 minutes of running around in circles just so it could hit feature length. Anne is at her confirmation to become a nun, and the runaway watches quietly in the audience. The religious theme hits maximum overdrive here, but then, crash. Robert Z'Dar bursts through the skylight, ready for one last showdown. As the cyborg and the runaway start hurling church pews across the room, all I could think was, finally, a literal pew-pew battle.
That was stupid. Tell me you know that was stupid.
Robert lands a big hit that makes the runaway bleed.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
That's enough to fuel our hero's second wind. After some furious kicks, he straps one of those explosive collars onto the cyborg. The bomb goes off, and instead of dying instantly, the cyborg goes full-on action movie cliché, walking around completely engulfed in flames, staggering like a flaming boss fight before finally collapsing. Honestly, it's the most epic shot in the movie and exactly the kind of fiery send-off Robert Z'Dar deserved all along. Anne cradles the wounded runaway in a very on-the-nose religious tableau, fade to black, only for the movie to end on a newspaper article about the church getting a new counselor for runaways. A weird, cheap wrap-up, but at least it ties back to the title. Sort of. Kinda. Well, not really. And that's Future War, a movie that really wanted to be deep, full of religious symbolism, scripture quoting, and a wandering stranger who was supposed to be profound. But like most things here, it went absolutely nowhere. Good movies have depth and layers like an onion. This movie tries, but the closest it gets to an onion is just making your eyes water. Then there's the confusion. Camera mistakes, endless running away, and of course the squeaky gate that will haunt your dreams. But that's exactly what makes this thing work. It's one of the great so bad it's good films, the kind where you can see the effort, the ambition, the attempt at making something meaningful, and it all falls apart in the best possible way, and that, right there, is the true hallmark of this genre. Thanks for watching this episode of Rewind: A Closer Look. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me in the comments if Future War made you tear up too, for all the wrong reasons.
Go, go! How are you doing, Mike? Faster! Go!
Monsters in the Hood.